Hey everyone! Today I'm going to be sharing with you these rose gold brushes. So this is a set of eye brushes. There are 12 in the set. I managed to pick them up from Amazon. I got them for about £5 or £6. If I can find them again, I will leave them linked below. So in this video what I'm going to do is just test them out for the first time because I've never actually tried them or anything yet. So I'm also going to use this video as a chance to be testing out some more of the Makeup Obsession single eyeshadows. So I've already applied the rest of my makeup, so foundation, setting powder, a bit of highlight and lipstick and concealer. And so I just got to pretty much do my eye makeup. So the first brush I'm going to use is sort of just a wide fluffy brush. So instead of saying each shadow each time, because I feel like it's going to make the video very long, I'm just going to have the name pop up here in case you're interested in what ones I'm using. This is just a matte sort of neutral shade that I'm going to use all over my lid. And so that little dent there, I kind of got my fingernail in it. I mean, I've sort of been swatching these shades, but I haven't really tested them on the eyes or anything yet. So that's what we're going to do today. That's okay. And the brush picks up the product and distributes it evenly, I would say. Next brush I'm going to use is a slightly tapered fluffy brush, and I'm just going to start building up my crease. Once again, it's quite a nice soft brush. Next brush I'm going to use is a sort of finely tipped one. I think you'd probably describe it as a pencil brush, and I'm going to use that to really carve in the crease area. Quite a finely packed brush, is that the word? Sort of more dense, which is good. Very good for precise application. Now I'm going to use a wide flat brush and put a shade all over my lid. Well, mostly on the outer portion, shall I say. The annoying thing about this is it's really big and difficult to get into the fine corners. It's great if you want to pack a shadow all over your lid, but for more precise application it's a bit tricky. Now I'm going to take a really small flat brush, which is very finely, densely packed together, and I'm going to put a shadow in the centre of my lid. Actually it picks up the product quite well. How will it apply? Yes. Now I'm going to use a really tiny brush here and put on an inner corner shadow. Well, and this is another brush that is quite dense, but I don't know if you can see as I'm applying, it has quite a bit of give to it, is that the word? So it's not so harsh on the skin, which is nice. Because sometimes I find with these smaller ones where they're so so densely packed together, they can really, they just won't have any spring to them, if that makes sense. They'll just literally dig into the skin. One that I've tried before, at least in the past. So this is actually quite good, and it's good, got a nice fine tip to it if you want to really go in with a a really defining eyeshadow. That's applied my inner corner highlight really nicely. Now I'm going to use a sort of this angled brush here. Sort of, it's densely packed together, but still got a bit of give to it. And I'm going to go onto my lower lash line. Sort of a mix between soft and harsh bristles, if that makes sense. But it's the perfect width for underneath the lash line. I'm now going to try this sort of angled brush. I've never used a brush like this before, but looking at its sort of fine tipped bristles there, I'd say it might be one you could use with a liquid eyeliner, but I'm going to use shadow and see how it applies. So it picks up quite a lot of product there. Yeah, not the biggest fan of that, I must admit. I mean, it's got a nice fine tip to it. So if you really want a thin line, but it's a bit more difficult to work with a powder, I'd say. So I think it's more designed for a liquid eyeliner. So I'm just going to try the other and the finely tipped angled brush that came in the set and see if that applies better with the powder eyeshadow. As weird as it sounds, I feel like I have more control with this brush as opposed to this one. I think it's because where the bristles are sort of a bit firmer, I have more control, whereas this one, the bristles are a bit more flimsy, and so as soon as you apply any pressure, it just sort of splurts off at an angle. So it's, yeah, this is a lot better for the application. And then last brush I'm going to use is a more fluffy angled brush, and I'm going to go in with a brow bone highlight. So I just finished off my eye look with some mascara. I just done that off camera. The one I used was my current one. My current mascara that I'm using, in case you're wondering, is the Rimmel Extreme Black Volume Mascara Flash. So it's the black and red packaging. So, final sort of thoughts or summary of the brushes. So they all, I'd say the majority of them are quite good. The only two that I didn't use were a big flat fluffy brush and then another more tapered one, or round fluffy brush. So that's when they come with quite a lot of similar style brushes. So I guess it's good for if you want to like apply different shades and stuff like that and you don't want to use the same brush, you can switch them out, that sort of thing. I'd say one of the most annoying things, or maybe even a positive, is that the two flat brushes, they are really big. I'm used to something that is quite a lot smaller, so I'll just show you something that I'm normally used to is something here. So it's a bit smaller, a bit more dense, whereas these in comparison, as you can see, are huge and they haven't got enough density to them, so they just sort of fluff everywhere, if that makes sense. So I'd have to say I'm not a massive fan of these brushes, or these two brushes, shall I say. That's what I'm going to say about those two. The other flat shaded brush, so this one here, most people would probably say this is like a concealer brush, but I don't really use concealer much around the eyes, so I'll just use it as an eyeshadow brush. And I'd say it picks up the product quite well. It's got quite nice density to it, and yeah, it's more of a finer tip than the other two flat brushes, so it's better for, especially if you want a more detailed look, it's good for that. The only other brush that I have in my collection that I can compare it to is this one by Revolution, which is the F102, which is more of a, it's basically slightly bigger, as you can see, and it's same sort of density and everything like that. Whereas I found, when I tried this, I've only tried it once or twice, it didn't pick up the product as well. I mean, I may try it out again, because I may have been wrong, I don't know. But yeah, that's the only one I can compare it to, so in regards to similar style of brushes. But I really liked the rose gold one. And the two sort of domed fluffy brushes that I used, they worked out quite well. There's one that is slightly brought in at the bottom of the bristles, and so it has a bit more flare, if that makes sense, and then this one is slightly more tapered. They worked quite well. Personally, I'd find much better use out of them if this one was a bit more tapered, because looking at them, they would cover the same sort of area, if that makes sense, the same amount of space on the eye. So I think I would have got much better use out of this one, especially if it was slightly more tapered, so there's a bit more of a difference in the two brushes, because they are very similar in regards to the size and that sort of thing. So I feel like, yeah, that's one thing that's missing in regards to these style of brushes here. And then the smaller flatter brush that I used for the inner corner, I really liked it. It was slightly dense, slightly firmer, but it still had enough spring in it that it wasn't so harsh on the eye. So one that I can compare it to is this one by Revolution as well. It's in their limited edition range. It doesn't have a number or anything, it's just part of their, I think it was a nude collection where there are the white brushes. And this one here is very sort of firm, and when I've been trying this one, it was very sort of harsh on the skin, if that makes sense. Whereas this one is a bit softer, and so I prefer this over the Revolution brush. Then onto the pencil brush. I really like it. It's quite soft, but still has enough firmness to it that the product's not going to like blur everywhere, if that makes sense. So I really like it. It's got a nice taper to it, so you can get a very sort of precision and application out of it depending on what you're doing. I would say it'll probably work quite well for inner corner as well. So I really like that one. Then the bigger angled brush, I said it worked quite well for the lower lash line, and I'm not quite sure what else I would use this style of brush for really, because it's quite firmly packed. So yeah, I mean maybe in the crease, but it's not really my type of brush that I would use in the crease. So yeah, I'd say the only use I would get out of this, and the use I got out of it today, is the lower lash line. But it did work quite well. It didn't spread the product all over my lower eye area. It held it quite nicely just in that lower lash line area, and it's quite a nice width for that area. It's not like too big where it'll just, as I say, drag all the product around. It's just applied it quite nicely in where I put it. So yes. And then the bigger angled brush, it was okay for the applying of the brow bone highlight. I mean, I don't, on a day-to-day basis, I don't apply a brow bone highlight, so I don't have much experience there in regards to that sort of application. But it did apply quite well. It's got quite nice, it's very soft and flippy. So yeah, it's worked quite well, and I'd say it'll probably work quite well close to the crease, sort of blending out and stuff. So yeah, it's quite a nice brush there as well. And then the last two brushes that I did use, the two sort of eyeliner brushes, I guess. As I said, this one here where it's sort of got a bent nib, that's part of the design. It actually came like that. It's not like it was broken or anything. It's got a nice fine tip to it, like with the bristles, but they're far too flimsy, so when you try to apply the product, it sort of just, well, even when I push it against my fingers softly, it sort of just, what's the word? Just spreads out. It doesn't quite, it's too flimsy to apply the product. It just doesn't really, especially a powder, it doesn't apply to the skin. It's sort of, yeah, didn't go too well. So I may, in the future, if I get a liquid eyeliner or anything like that, try it with that and see how that goes. But apart from that, I don't really have much use with this brush, unfortunately. Whereas the firmer angled brush, I really quite liked it. It worked quite well, and I got a nice application of the eyeliner shadow there. As you can probably see, it's not so intense, because I didn't want to go that intense, but it worked quite well. So overall, I'd say I'm pleased with the majority of the brushes in the set. At least 10 out of the 12 brushes I really liked, and they worked quite well for me. It was just the two brushes, as I mentioned, that didn't quite work out, and I probably won't be using again anytime soon, at least. And the eyeshadow itself I really quite like. So as I said in my video that I shared, the one where I hold the Makeup Obsession eyeshadow, the Obsession eyeshadows. So what I'm going to do with these is test them all out, and then, because I've got an empty palette that I'm going to be putting these into, and then I'll sort of update you on the ones that I really like and that I'm going to be using more often, and put them in the palette together. But each eyeshadow applied very nicely. It picked up on the brush and all blended seamlessly, to be honest. There's no like sort of weird patches or anything like that, because sometimes I find, sometimes with my eyeshadows in the crease area, it will sort of separate and sort of mesh together, even like not long after applying. Sometimes that happens, but these ones that I've used today I've applied really nicely. Yeah, I just really like how the eye look turned out. It's nice and warm and very nice. So I hope you liked this video and found it somewhat helpful, even though there was a lot of rambling. If you did, please give it a thumbs up, and also don't forget to comment and subscribe if you haven't already, and I shall see you next time. Bye!